7 o'clock. Unmuted, your worship.
They don't go to St. Thomas, they do it in Turkey. They don't go to Turkey.
Oh.
It all depends.
Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to the regular session of council. It's November the 2nd, 2023, it is 7 p.m. and I will call this meeting to order. I'll remind members of any disclosures of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. Seeing none, move on with item 3, review of items not listed on the agenda. Thomas?
Just a quick note, Mr. Mayor, that report FR 0523 from Chief Baranick is being pulled from tonight's agenda. Reason being that a representative from Enbridge Gas wishes to be present during the discussion of the report. Unfortunately, they were unable to have a representative here tonight. It is expected that the item will be back on the agenda for the December 7th meeting.
Thank you. Moving on with section 4 announcements. Does anyone have any announcements? Megan, please.
Thank you, your worship. I just wanted to advise residents that the regular location on our website where you get agendas and minutes is not working today. So on the home page itself on the blog, we've posted tonight's council and planning agendas there where you can access and follow along with us.
Thank you. Thomas?
Just one quick comment, Mr. Mayor, that the municipal office will be closed on Friday, November the 10th to observe Remembrance Day.
Okay. And in light of that, I will also announce that on the 5th, Sunday the 5th, there will be 2 cenotaph ceremonies in this municipality, the one being at 11 o'clock in Deanna, followed by the second one in Port Burwell, parade at 12:30, with the ceremony to take place at or near 1 p.m. So there's that. I would also like to take this opportunity to offer congratulations to the manager of Public Works, Mr. Adams. Congratulations on successfully completing the curriculum requirements for the Public Works Leadership Development Program. You were awarded with that certificate last week. And certainly want to recognize that and offer you congratulations on that. Thank you. We will be skipping the presentations. We will be coming back to that after 7:30. So we will move on with delegations. And this evening we have delegation from Valerie Donald and Debbie Hayward regarding lighthouse donations.
Good evening.
Make sure you use the microphone, please.
Good evening, your worship and council. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you. I am a member of a newly formed committee known as Friends of the Lighthouse. Many in the region are concerned about the preservation of the Port Burwell Lighthouse, and we hope to mobilize the sentiment into action. The Port Burwell Lighthouse holds the distinction of being the oldest wooden Canadian lighthouse on Lake Erie. It is a monument to our past and a present connection to Lake Erie. It is a treasured asset to this community. Our lighthouse was a navigational aid to allow safe entry to the harbor. In 2010, many lighthouses were deemed surplus due to advances in automation. The federal government transferred the responsibility for some lighthouses to municipalities, community groups, and even individuals. However, of the 347 nominated surplus lighthouses, only a small percentage have had proposals made for funding to maintain them. The Friends of the Lighthouse group has begun networking with concerned residents. It is our hope to initiate a fundraising drive to help offset the lighthouse repair costs borne by the municipality. Now that the repair estimates have been made public, our group hopes to firmly move ahead with fundraising. Our plan is to reach out to our global friends of lighthouses, Canadian and global corporations, and private individuals in search of financial support for this cause. Many people have already expressed their concern for the lighthouse and their willingness to contribute financially to its repair. For example, the family of the late Earl Shea requested that donations be made in his memory to the perpetuity of the Port Burwell Lighthouse. This request has been honored and donations have been made. We are hoping to make donating to the lighthouse cause as easy and transparent as possible, with the added motivation to donors of the ability to receive a charitable receipt for their gift. For that reason, we would ask that the council consider opening a capital reserve fund designated to the Port Burwell Lighthouse Repair Project. The ability to issue a tax receipt is essential for a successful fundraising campaign, especially when it comes to corporate donations. We would draw to council's attention to the fact that many corporations allocate their charitable funds at the beginning of each year. Therefore, we would hope to have the account set up so it can be referenced in our fundraising letters. Our 100-year-old lighthouse has proudly stood on the bluff, first protecting our community, and now a graphic reminder of our history in the municipality of Bayham logo. It is valued not only in Bayham region, but also outside our community. Thank you for your support of our goal to raise it to its former glory. Thank you.
Thank you for that. We have a motion that reads that the delegation from Valerie Donnell and Debbie Hayward regarding lighthouse donations be received for information. Do I have a mover and seconder? Counselor Emerson and Counselor Chilcott will move or second. All in favor? That's carried. Section 7, adoption of the minutes of the previous meeting. That includes the regular meeting of council held October 19th, 2023. Everyone's had opportunity to peruse those minutes. Any errors or omissions? Hearing none. The motion to read that the minutes of the regular council meeting held October the 19th, 2023 be approved as presented. Deputy Mayor Weiser will second or move. Getting a little ahead of myself here. Did I notice Councilor Emerson sticking his hand up a second? That would be great. Thank you. All in favor? That's carried. Skipping down to section 11, physical services and emergency services, 11.2, reports to council. Item A. This is the one that's being canceled. Item B, report PS 1623 by Steve Adams, Manager of Public Works, Drainage Superintendent, regarding the 2023-2024 winter operations plan level of service. Good evening, Steve.
Good evening, your worship, members of council. So the report before you regarding the 2023-2024 winter operation plan. This is the annual updates that are proposed before you. It's kind of a good thing before the winter season starts, just to kind of review it, go over it, and make themselves familiar with it. This is what the questions when they come in. It's a good document to hold. So the municipality follows this level of service, follows under the minimum maintenance standards. This is within the Municipal Act for municipal roads and highways. The winter operation plan is a tool for the municipality to possibly mitigate future claims. It can be used. We have used it in litigation at this time. It's a clear document that outlines our plan, our future going forward. Although there is no legislation for the policy, the level of service policy is a clear identifier to continue the consistent path to maintain the roads in a safe manner. And it also helps staff with budgeting moving forward. So within the report, there were a few updates this year. Number one, table 1 was updated. It's usually an annual update to reflect the capital conversions. So tar and chip roads that were converted from gravel to tar and chip. those are just identified within the kilometers, municipal kilometers. Table 3, the updated classification table was, the table was identified as the county and municipal road counts were done this year. So there's some minor changes within that one. Table 6 was added. It was added, the treatment of icy roadways. Last year we had a lot of questions on that, so we added that in there just for more of a guidance for people, residents. They want to have a look, sometimes you think it has to be done a lot faster than it actually does, but chances are staff are on it. Another one that was added was 6.5 under the resident information. This is the clearing snow from sidewalks. Although the next one's going to cover it, although the municipality does cover contract just about all sidewalks. We had to take a few out, and that's within the table that was identified within the report. These sidewalks were taken out as last year damaged contractor. The sidewalks that were proposed here were all under 3 feet, and the contractor had a really hard time clearing them, and there was a lot of damage done to the equipment, so it just wasn't made possible to clear them in a safe manner. So we identified that just to pull them out of there. So other than that, if there's any questions on the updates or the operations plan, I'm here to answer the questions.
Well, thank you for the report, Steve. Does anyone have any questions?
Through you, Mr.
Yeah.
Mayor.
Councillor Emerson?
I'm just looking at class of highways. I just want to clear this up. You have the depth in centimeters. Is that average, or is that like if there's a drift, you gotta plow the road?
Yeah, there is other identification, so that's a good one. When it comes to lanes, there isn't a minimum lane width we have to cover. The bottom line is, yes, if it's 8 centimeters of snow, say class 3 highway, Plank Road, 12 hours. We have 12 hours to reduce the snowfall to 8 centimeters. So if for any reason it's drifting, if the minimum, I don't have a table within the plan, within the minimum maintenance standards, there is a table that we have to follow for drifting as well. So it's it's based on the same thing, but if it only drifts to the shoulder, 2 feet on the road, chances are it's pretty much a meter off the end of the road on most of our roadways. So, but yes, that is pretty much the depth is what we have to follow.
Thank you.
Anything additional? Okay. Motion would read the report PS 1623 regarding winter operations plan, level of service be received for information. And that the council of the corporation of the municipality of Bayham approve the municipality of Bayham winter operations plan, level of service policy, and associated mapping as attached here too. Do I have a mover and seconder for that? Councillor Chilcott will move, Deputy Mayor Weiser will second. All in favor? That is carried. Section 12, Development Services, Sustainability and Conservation. 12.1 Correspondence and 12.1.1 to receive for information. Item A, Notice of Adoption of Official Plan Amendment Number 35, Algar Farms Limited. Item B, Notice of Public Meeting regarding proposed zoning bylaw amendment ZBA 1223, Bonifield Farm, Ontario 4, Inc. Any questions? I need a mover and seconder for the following, that items 12.1.1A and B be received for information. Deputy Mayor Weisler and Councillor Emerson will second. All in favor? That's carried. 12.2, reports to council. Item A, report DR 0923 by Steve Adams, Manager of Public Works, Drainage Superintendent, regarding Benner Drain Branches C and D abandonment. Steve?
Thank you, Your Worship. So this drain report, slightly different than the previous ones you guys have been seeing. This is for a request for abandonment on branch C and D of the Benner Drain. This drain is located on Light Line between Tollgate Road and County Road 55. It's on the south side of the road, between concession 3 and 4. This drain was installed in 1942. It was a closed tile system. It's all underground. These particular 2 branches, they were dug in very shallow. And over the years, the farm equipment just the frost moving them up and down has wreaked havoc on the section of drain. We've repaired, since I've been here, we've been repairing that drain for quite a while. In the 2022, we kind of did a little bit more research in it. We dug it up in many places, many damaged places. We found that the tile was buried, it was broke. We were fixing tiles pretty much every 20 feet. So at that point, it was identified that the drain will have to be replaced or possibly abandoned. So in September 19th of this year, I called a meeting just with the landowners within the watershed. I wanted to hear their opinions on it, what they wanted to do. I wanted to launch. I do want to move forward with either the reconstruction or the abandonment. In this case, I brought the abandonment forward as the Schonberger drain, which is really within the same locations, about 100 meters south kind of this drain. It was built in 1960 and it's an open ditch, and it's actually the two, after digging into it a little bit deeper, the two watersheds actually overlap quite a bit. So the need for this section of branch, really it wasn't needed. So collectively, the landowners, myself, we looked at all aspects on, you know, if it was abandoned, the, you know, the pros and the cons. There was no real pros to keeping it, other than this would allow the landowners to run their private tiles into the Schonberger as they are assessed. All the farmers on this drain are assessed for the Schonberger, so with benefit. So it's actually, it's just moving forward. This would be taken off the municipal profile for the municipal drains. This section of the drain, there is a section A and B. We identified, we dug it up. It's in total different, it's a lot deeper. It's in great shape. It runs. However, the municipality itself needs the drain because it does drain our road water. And the farmers also agreed on keeping it as well for tile drainage. So before you, there was section 84 of the Municipal Drainage Act, did have three different options, which was landowner, councilor, engineer. These were the three options that how it could be abandoned. I took the lead on this one for the landowners, given that council can abandon this. Otherwise, if the landowner and the engineer wanted to abandon this, it would be a cost. We'd have to get an engineer to do a report. We can move forward tonight and propose the abandonment. And this would just be, we would send notice to the landowners. They do have a time period of, I believe, 10 days to appeal the abandonment. Generally, I can't see anything coming as we've met, and no issues with it. So yeah, the remainder of the drain would stay in place. This would really be done at no cost. If council wishes to move forward with it, a bylaw would be put in place after the appeal period, and this would be off our out of our profile for municipal drains. So any questions? I'm here now.
Well, thank you for that, Steve. Does anyone have any questions? Deputy Mayor Weiser.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Just for a process, Steve, I'm just curious if there's an issue in the future and they want to put a drain in there, would they have to petition for drainage and start the process all over again? If it's abandoned, it's like it doesn't exist. I just want to make sure I understand.
That's absolutely correct.
Okay,
So the drain that lays in place, it stays in place. It'll be up to the farmer or the landowner to maintain that drain if there's sinkholes or washouts. However, if the landowners work with the municipal superintendent at the time, it'd be suggested to go into the Schonberger drain as they're assessed. So there's really no need for these two any further.
thank you.
Okay, thank you. Everyone's good? All right. The motion reads that report DR 0923 regarding the Benner drain branches C and D abandonment be received for information. And that the council of the corporation of the municipality of Bayham directs notice be sent to all landowners assessed within the watershed of the Benner drain branches C and D regarding the proposed abandonment. And that a bylaw to authorize the abandonment of the Benner drain branches C and D be presented to council for consideration if no submissions are sent to the clerk within 10 days notice of the proposed abandonment being sent to all assessed landowners within the watershed of the Benner Drain branches C and D. Do I have a mover and seconder for that? Counselor Chilcott. Counselor Emerson will second. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Item B, report DR 1023 by Steve Adams, Manager of Public Works, Drainage Superintendent, regarding petition for drainage 1128 Properties, Inc. Steve?
Thank you. Once again, yes, there's a petition before you for the property owned by 1128 Properties, Inc. This petition was signed on October 23rd, 2023 by Greg Mitchell of 1128 Properties, Inc. This is in regards to the large development south of Eden on the east side of Plank Road, known as Concession 8, Lot 22. Within the proposed development, a large storm management pond is proposed. Our municipal engineer early on in the pre-development plans, I guess, they identified the need for a larger outlet for the storm management pond. Currently, there is a drain on the property. It's the Gilvazy Baldwin drain. It crosses Plank Road and it continues east to the outlet. So pending the on-site meeting with the developer and engineer, we'd more likely keep the same drain. It would have to be upsized pending the engineer's report. The developer's willing to move ahead with keeping this moving, and staff recommend moving forward with the petition. Retain Streets as the municipal engineer and send notice for an on-site meeting. Are there any other questions? Yeah.
Thank you for that report, Steve. Any questions? Steve, once this on-site stormwater management pond is established, who becomes responsible for it?
Yes, your worship. As identified earlier, this stormwater pond, being that this process has already started, this will be under the municipality's responsibility to maintain, and staff are working towards. We're hoping to have a report before you, kind of identifying a few of the other ones as well, but this is definitely something we're gonna have to push forward and maintain moving forward.
Thank you. The only reason I bring it up is because it wasn't that long ago. You and Mr. Rollison brought forward advice that we should be discouraging stormwater management ponds.
That's correct.
So it looks like we're gonna get one.
We are going to get a couple, as these were developments ahead of our reporting.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other questions? All right, the motion reads that report DR 1023 regarding the petition for drainage for the 1128 Properties, Inc. be received. And that the council of the corporation of the municipality of Bayham acknowledges the filing with the clerk of the petition for drainage works from Greg Mitchell. And that council wishes to proceed with this matter and appoints Street Associates Limited engineers to prepare a report on the proposed drainage area pursuant to section 5 and section 8(1) of the Drainage Act for council's consideration. Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Emerson will move, Counselor Chilcott will second. All in favor? That's carried. We have 4 minutes to go through 15 pieces of correspondence. Sure, we can do it. Section 13, Finance and Min, 13.1 Correspondence, and 13.11 to receive for information. As I outlined, there are 15 articles here. Does anyone wish to bring attention to any of them? Counselor Chilcott.
Thank you. There's 3 items on here that I think that we should look into further and maybe help support. I and K.
All right. Just for those who are following along, you're talking about the town of Greater Napanee regarding provincial legislation for third-party short-term rental companies. Item I is the municipality of North Perth regarding catch and release justice in Ontario, and K is the municipality of North Perth regarding Till Death Do Us Part Act.
Correct.
So you want to support those,
I do.
okay? Anything else? Deputy Mayor Weiser?
Yes, thank you through you, Mr. Mayor. B, item B. And I'm not gonna try and pronounce archipelago. Did I say that right?
Archipelago.
Regarding the cigarette producer responsibility. I just wanted to make a couple of comments about that because I found that report to be very interesting. Within the body of the report, it says cigarette butts are the most common form of litter worldwide and pose a threat to aquatic life and ecosystems. And then further on down, it says that cigarette filters can take several years to degrade, and they have been identified as one of the top 5 items of microplastics found in our Great Lakes. I bring that to our attention just because I find it very interesting with the recent beach cleanup that we just had and the amount of cigarette butts that we've collected on the beach this over the season. So I would move that we support this. This puts the responsibility back on the cigarette producers to assist with mitigating and being responsible for the waste materials that are created from the non-biodegradable portions of the cigarettes. So, but in the meantime, I do have a question for staff. And I was, and Steve's here, so he may be able to help. I'm just wondering what mechanisms are available for our municipally owned properties to promote the safe collection of cigarette waste.
Yeah, if staff wants to, or sorry, if council wants to endorse some, I think currently we only have 1 cigarette butt out tray. If this is something council wishes to pursue in parks, beaches, that's, you know, other than signage, that's about all we can do to try finding. You were correct. It was, there was almost a half a garbage bag they figured that was actually cigarette butts that was found in the microplastics on the beach. So that's quite a bit.
Just out of curiosity, where is that collection tray?
It's found out in the parking lot outside the Stratford Community Center,
Not anymore.
50 meters past the building, and was ripped down.
Yes.
Ah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's interesting because Southwest Public Health would suggest that you can't have ashtrays or
Right.
collection within your parks. And I assume that
Yeah.
includes the beach. So what would you like to do?
In parkland itself, that's correct. You'd have to put it out on a road allowance. So it's tough.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So is that because of that you're supposed to be so many meters away from municipal properties? So that's why there's no waste?
Recreational properties.
Right, okay, interesting. Through you, Mr. Mayor, so I would still put forward that I would like to support number B. And just see where that goes, and perhaps maybe we can defer any discussion about that to our budget.
Okay.
But I would like to see that supported.
All right. Another one?
Yes, so.
I'm short.
I know. Through you, Mr. Mayor, just, I also would like to bring forward K as well, so I do fully support, Councillor Chilcott's, proposal to bring that forward. That bill has been sitting there for quite some time, and it's very important to a lot of people, so I would really like to see our aging population be able to stay together, so I would hope that hits 3rd reading that's supposed to be coming soon, so I am very much in support of that as well.
All right. Councilor Emerson, do you have any items?
No, they pretty much covered them all, so I think I can support that. Potentially scientific issues. Way more complicated. Just
Well, it's bail reform.
Yeah.
Essentially, what they're trying to deal with. And it is complicated. I'm still don't know how you're gonna deal with item B, but if you want to support it, if council wants to do it, they can. Keep in mind you're from a tobacco area. Councilor Chilcott.
Thank you. I have a question on, item B. If they're trying to put it back on the producers, so would they be responsible for maybe some or all of the cost to the municipalities, for collecting, cigarette butts and everything? So that would be beneficial to us if we can figure out a way to get people to walk over to them. We have to put cigarette butts in there, right? We can't smoke on the beach, we can't smoke at a thing, so they're outside. We have to get people to put them in and get rid of them.
Yeah, I'm not sure that that's what that motion speaks to, but
Yeah,
no, it's
No, but
talking
it
about
speaks to
transferring the
others.
cost to a producer. It's the same as, Coca-Cola or ginger ale or whatever else,
Mhm.
upping the cost of their containers, which is then passed on to the consumer. That's what you're gonna get.
Right.
Okay. Okay. If I'm hearing things right, then I believe the motion would read that items 13.11 A through O be received for information, that the council of the corporation and municipality of Banff supports items A, B, I, and K. So, do we have a mover and seconder for that? You can move and second and then ask your question.
okay. I'll move.
Okay. Yes, question.
Yes, thank you through you, Mr. Mayor. Just one quick question for you from item N with the Allegan County highlights. I just was wondering if you could quickly explain what the Southwestern Public Health Commitment to Community Wellbeing, the 61,000 funding was for what program? I'm just curious, is that the annual program funding or is this a new project?
No, it was a shortfall in their funding,
Shortfall. Okay,
essentially.
thank you.
Okay. Okay. So we have a motion duly moved by Deputy Mayor Weiser, seconded by Councillor Chilcott. All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Okay. We'll recess from our regular agenda to move into a public meeting. We're dealing with a proposed zoning bylaw amendment, ZBA 1223 Bonneville Farmland, Inc. at 55314 Jackson Lane. It is 7:32, and I will call this public meeting to order. Remind members of council of any disclosure of the pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. The purpose and effect, again, is the proposed zoning bylaw amendment, ZBA 1223 Bonneville Farmland, Ontario 4, Inc. at 55314 Jackson Line. The purpose of this bylaw amendment is to rezone two portions of the subject lands as results of the surplus farm dwelling severance in zoning bylaw Z 456/2003. The proposed severed lot is to be rezoned from agricultural A1A to site-specific rural residential RRXX zone to permit residential use and an oversized accessory building, and prohibit the keeping of livestock in the retained barn. A proposed retained lot is to be rezoned from A1A to special agricultural A2 zone to prohibit new buildings or dwellings, excuse me. The subject lands are known as 55314 Jackson Line, north side and west of Plank Road. The effect of this bylaw will be to recognize the residential nature of the newly created residential lot and to prohibit new dwellings on the retained farm parcel in accordance with the official plan as part of the clearing of consent conditions for Elgin County Land Division Committee, file number E4023. This time I will invite any public participation. Anyone wishing to speak to this file? For the third time. Anyone wishing to speak to this zoning bylaw amendment? Correspondence.
No correspondence received.
Thank you. Any other business? One of the quickest public meetings we've ever had. Adjournment. that the zoning bylaw amendment be considered at a future council meeting, and that pursuant to the Planning Act requirements, the public meeting for zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 1223 is now complete at 7:35 PM. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Chilcott will move, Deputy Mayor Weiser will second, all in favor. And that is carried. Brings us back to our regularly scheduled agenda, and we are going to move back to section 5 for presentations. This evening, we have Carolyn Cron from the County of Elgin, Manager of Economic Development, Tourism and Strategic Initiatives, and Don Shropshire, County of Elgin, CAO Clerk, regarding planning for growth. Welcome. The floor is yours.
All right, so thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. We're here today to have a conversation about the growth that we anticipate in this region over the next few years and to learn how you would like to respond to that growth and how we can support you with the desired level of growth that you'd like to see in your community. So if we go to the next slide, we can take a look at what we'd like to cover today. So we'd like to discuss how the county should set up planning and economic development to make sure that we can get the most out of the investments that are happening in this region over the next couple of years, including the Amazon fulfillment facility in Southwold and the PowerCo SE Gigafactory in St. Thomas. So these investments are expected to boost our community and our economy. So these developments are generating significant interest in this area and are also increasing land demand here. So we'd like to maximize the benefits for our communities through careful planning. And today's presentation, the goal of that is to help you define the growth that you would like to see in your community in Bayham. So I encourage you to stop me at any point if you have a question or if you'd like to provide any feedback. We'd like to have a conversation today. So again, anytime that there's a question that you have, or if you have some feedback that you would like to give about how you would like to see Bayham grow over the next few years, please let me know. And we can go to the next slide. So the PowerCo SE Gigafactory is not just a factory, it's a catalyst for economic change in this area. So the factory itself is anticipated to create about 3,000 jobs and thousands of more indirect jobs. And we've heard that it could create as many as 30,000 new jobs. And that's in feeder plants and then also commercial to support the growing workforce in the area. So as a result of this job growth, there will be increased job competition and population growth in this area. And that will have a regional impact. It won't just impact St. Thomas or the municipalities directly around it. It will also influence Bayham, as you may have some of the population who will be seeking work in the new PowerCo SE factory, and it will impact your employers here as well. Next slide, please. So Elgin County, St. Thomas, London, and beyond will be competing for these secondary or these feeder plants, industrial investments encouraged by the PowerCo SE location in St. Thomas. So as businesses flock to our region, skilled labor competition will also intensify. So this influx of jobs will attract a diverse range of people, and it will be very important that we continue to assess our workforce needs and invest in the training that is required. So existing businesses are also going to require our support in all of this development. So we want to make sure that they have the workforce that they need as well, and that they have the skilled laborers that they need. Next slide, please. So some things that we need to think about as we're planning for this growth include careful financial planning and land use planning. So we need to make sure that the demands of housing, business, both industrial and commercial, agriculture, and recreation are balanced. So infrastructure upgrades may be necessary for accommodating this population and business growth. And some other things to consider as well are housing affordability and supply. with an influx of people into this region, that is something that needs to be carefully considered. Transportation, education, healthcare, public safety, recreation, and other social services. So these are things that will become in more demand as population grows. And aligning development and the growth in your community with community priorities is vital. Welcoming newcomers and immigrants ensures that our communities remain safe and inclusive spaces where all residents can thrive, and community engagement plays a pivotal role in achieving this. We want to make sure that the growth is aligned with, again, the community priorities. Next slide, please. So there are some benefits of growth. Industrial growth offers tax revenue, job creation, economic stimulation, and improved infrastructure. An increase in industrial tax revenue can support the increase in service levels that are required by population growth. And this can enhance property values and foster community vibrancy. So again, sustainable and well-planned growth is essential for long-term benefits. And to prepare for this development, there are a few things that we need to understand about the type and level of growth that BAM would like to see. So would you like to attract new residents? Would you like to attract and grow your commercial businesses? Do you want to attract and grow your industrial tax base? And depending on the type of growth that you would like to see, do we need incentives to attract that kind of investment? Or is our location close to PowerCo SE in St. Thomas sufficient incentive? Or are you looking to provide further incentives to attract businesses to this area? So we can pause for some discussion now, and there's some questions here on the screen that I'll go through quickly, and then we can have a conversation about those. So what is the appetite in BAM to welcome investment? How aggressively would you like to pursue growth? And in terms of incentives to attract businesses, how aggressive do you think we should be? And how welcoming will our communities be to newcomers? What steps can we ensure that will be an inclusive community and there will be a smooth transition for newcomers? And with that, I would like to pass this back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Well, thank you very much for that. Again, it's open for conversation. I've had the privilege of actually going through this once at the county, but please, let's hear from you. This is your chance. I think there's an opportunity here to attract some investment, to participate in it. Yes, Councillor Chilcott.
I would love to see some industry come this way again. We do have some, but we're gonna need more land in order to provide for the industry to show up.
Possibly. We do have
We have an
industrial,
industrial park, but
we do have an industrial park in the north. We have some land available, but yes,
so that land would be an issue for us. I would think there's not a whole lot of land there.
I think the overriding factor is it's unserviced land. That's the problem. So it'd be dry industry that we can support at this point, unless we can find a way to create service land.
And of course, any other business that we can bring into our town is welcome. Jobs are important to our residents and the surrounding areas.
Well, through you, Mr. Mayor, like to me, it seems like this would be a prime residential area, and we do have pockets, especially in Vienna, with a lot of available lots and whatnot. But we have an aging water pipeline, and we also have a limit on our sewage capacity. So if there's gonna be any help from the county or upper tier levels of government, then they should be looking at supporting us and expanding our utility base.
I would agree. I think we need to set our sights a little higher and look to the province for more support there.
Oh, I
But
said
you're
upper
right.
tier. I said upper tier, all levels, but
Upper
we
levels,
do, we
upper
need
levels.
some support, and even if it's just help with promoting the need or lobbying, that would be greatly appreciated, because that pipeline in Port Burrell is from Port Burrell to Port Burrell is gonna be an issue.
So then, from your vision, are you thinking that Bayham would be a bedroom community, or do you think? that
Well,
there's
it could be,
capacity
it could
here?
be even tourism, like people gotta go someplace for the weekend, so, you know, we have a need for more housing in the area to support businesses throughout the year, not just seasonal businesses, so, you know, it would be great if there was more housing available, and there's already a shortage of housing anyway, and if you want to be inclusive to newcomers or whatever, then we can't, lock the current residents with limited income out of the prosperity. So if we have a limit on housing, then we make this area unaffordable for people that are here already.
Yep, I agree with you. Like, we already have an inventory of over 1,000 lots we're available right now. But it's infrastructure is the limiting
That's
factor.
Mhm.
But the question again, I think just to ferret it out a little, tease it out a little more. Are you interested only in residential growth, or are you interested in, commercial industrial development in this end? There's gonna be tertiary, industry that comes along with PowerCo. Deputy Mayor.
Yes, thank you through you, Mr. Mayor. I think we've touched on it around the table. I am fully in support of commercial and industrial growth, but I think where we are going to be very challenged as a community is that our core infrastructure just does not support that type of growth. So I mean, it's a double-edged sword, right? Because I've always been an advocate for industrial and commercial growth, but we have no shovel-ready land, which is where we're gonna find is the big issue, so. And with our current plans for the infrastructure needs that we currently have and the failing and aging infrastructure, it's gonna have to be a partnership with upper levels, there's no doubt. There's no. Yeah.
Well, if you consider this municipality towards, in comparison with other other areas, because of the sandiness and the area, it is way easier to build houses and subdivisions than another area, and probably cheaper to make a housing subdivision. You're not pushing through blue clay or anything like that, right? So I don't know, maybe that's a stretch, but at the same time, like maybe dry industrial park's not a bad idea, because there's definitely gonna be need for trucking and warehouses and whatnot, and we have land up in the north, so maybe we should be targeting the north of number 3 as industrial area. Towards the lake is residential.
All right, and with residential growth, of course, you're going to have the support industry that comes along to
Right,
service
think
that.
about the restaurants.
So, wow, think a little more than just restaurant.
Yeah.
Council Chilcott.
I think that the residential needs to be throughout Bayham, can't be, not all.
Well, I wasn't saying it was exclusive.
And I
I'm
didn't
just-
think you meant that, but just want to be clear on
No,
that.
but
It
the
should be throughout.
transportation corridors, the railroad, everything is up there, like to the north, right? And people are, I'm not saying that you can't do anything down here, I'm just saying that seems like the most logical place to put industry.
Oh, no, I'm talking the residential.
But
Needs to be
residential,
spread out throughout the entire municipality, because people are gonna wanna live everywhere. It's beautiful.
Okay, so let's just parse down the list a little bit further. So is there an appetite for being a little bit aggressive?
for sure, for sure.
All right, just giving you kind of what you're looking for. And I guess, how welcome is our community to newcomers?
But that's,
I think it's all over. I think, we're having newcomers come in now.
Mhm.
And I'm wondering if what they're trying to get at is, from an ethnicity, a more diverse ethnicity.
that just has to happen.
It shouldn't even be a,
It shouldn't
issue.
be there, but it is something that has to be considered. Okay? All right, let's roll on, please.
All right, so if we can go to the next slide. So along with growth, there are certain costs involved, and these costs involve different levels of governments, and they also involve the public and private sector. So municipally, we think of things like water, wastewater planning, roads, cultural services, emergency services, parks and recreation, and I'm sure we can make that list longer as well. When we think of other levels of government, school boards, so planning for and building new schools, recruiting staff for these new schools with population growth. And then also in the private sector, there are costs to build that housing or that commercial development and industrial development as well. And as we're trying to achieve this vision that you have for your community, there may be costs related to economic development as well. And these include business attraction efforts and workforce development initiatives. So with all of these costs to consider, effective financial planning is crucial for project sustainability. So if we can go, perfect. So there are different funding sources that we can take a look at to support this growth and the required infrastructure and services. So funding sources include property taxes, grants, debentures, development charges, and user fees. There is also the opportunity to partner with other municipalities on larger infrastructure projects. And then another option is public-private partnerships. So we have been doing some research in this area and having meetings with different potential partners. And we will be bringing that back to County Council in a few weeks or a couple of months, I think, or a few weeks. And then we can discuss different options that there are, because there are opportunities here where we can get water and wastewater facilities built with the support of private industry. So what expectations should we have regarding financial support from the provincial and federal governments as well? So are they prepared to make some investments in this community to support the growth that is going to happen in the next few years? And so again, another point, if you'd like to pause for discussion. So how much are you willing, or not just willing, how much can you invest to drive the growth forward? So where do you see opportunities for collaboration between the local municipalities, the county, and the city? And when might we find ourselves in competition? And when it comes to infrastructure, do you think it's feasible for us to make some shared investments in areas like water and wastewater? That I can pause for a moment if you'd like to have some discussion around this.
Well, I think that first question is overloaded.
It's the first question.
How much are you willing to invest to drive growth forward? We are committed to a plan of freeing up some debt capacity, but that's in immediacy. So I'm not sure how you can quantify that. But if you're going to have an expectation of growing, then there is going to have to be a commitment for a certain level of investment to get us there.
Why can't we find landlords that are building better site?
Can you use your mic?
Oh, okay. Why can't we find investors? We should maybe, if we get past this debt thing, find private landowners that want to work with the town. We should, with the municipality, to plan, just get it in place, the subdivisions and everything, so let's go. And can we find a way to streamline the zoning change and process so that these things can happen quicker instead of the usual, well, I don't know, it seems like we talk about the same property 4 times in a council meeting. Approval this, planning that, this, and then come back around. So isn't there a way to make that go faster so that we can capture some of this quicker? We need to get rid of some of this red tape business.
Yep, that's loaded.
Well, if you want to take advantage of it, it's getting built, and I don't even think we can react as fast as we need to tell you the truth.
Additional comments? In terms of collaboration, I think there are all kinds of opportunities out there. Synergies are something that should always be on the lookout for. You know, we do have some existing service level synergies, but I guess is there a willingness to be working with our neighbors in terms of a capital side? I don't have a problem. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you through you, Mr. Mayor. I mean, I'm definitely interested in having a conversation, but I'm more curious as to what it would look like. That synergy, like I'm just trying to wrap my head around. Shared investment, water, wastewater, like.
Well, how about just to throw an illustration out there, just an example, say you have a regional wastewater plant. You might have to pipe into it and pump it a ways. But does it make sense to have one large facility out there? And rather than 7 smaller ones? That's just an example. It may not be the one that's going to be used, but I'm just saying I'm throwing it out there.
Right.
No, that's actually a good idea.
All right, now you think about our water system. It's coming, Aqua's running the plant down there in Port Stanley, but that's where the secondary system is, source of that water is coming from. So we're already involved in that kind of shared servicing or synergy.
Yeah.
Of course, we're the major user of it. And got the bulk of the funding for it. But that's just an example. So am I kind of getting a sense that does make sense for shared servicing? Feasible, at least to have the discussion?
For service utilities and stuff, I'm not so sure about land development.
Don't
Because-
know. What happens on the border between us and Malahide?
That's what I was just thinking.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Keep an open mind.
in this plan and all this stuff you're talking about, are you gonna open up the possibility of development outside of settlement areas? Or is that has
I
to
don't
be
think-
in the 5-year strategic thing or whatever?
Well, any growth outside the boundaries, current rules suggest it has to go through the official plan review process. And I believe it's still required to have a comprehensive study. Because we haven't seen the PPS yet.
Just a
Yep.
quick point to that, and Marg's here as well, in case I get anything wrong, but we're supposed to have a certain capacity of developable land within the settlement boundaries. So if you're looking to develop or allow development, regardless of the scale outside of a settlement area, you'd have to go through the, a comprehensive official plan and zoning bylaw amendment process. And if you're looking at doing, say, development that borders on a settlement area just outside, then that, is a complex process that could require the change in the boundaries of a settlement area to ensure that we still have that land allocation present in our official plan. And just to reiterate that we have started the 5-year official plan process with Arcadis. So that is something that has started, and we're working with them on that to determine need for the next 5 years. So it's I guess advantageous we're having this discussion right now as well.
I'm certainly glad you brought the attention to the rail. We have the Cayuga subdivision runs through our spot.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Okay. Okay.
Alright. So we're ready to go forward. So with all of this growth and expansion, we don't want to forget our existing businesses. They have been here for a long time. They've invested a lot into our community. So supporting them is key to our success in the future. So growth presents opportunities and challenges for our existing businesses. Some may have opportunities to supply PowerCo SE with materials and things like that, but there also may be competition for employees. So skilled laborers may look for jobs at PowerCo SE as well. So launching this month, in fact, we just launched, we had our first interviews today. We are doing a business retention and expansion program to support existing businesses. So we will be visiting businesses throughout Elgin County to learn more about their opportunities, their challenges. The goal is really to understand how we can better support our businesses and create a business-friendly environment. So the aim is to strengthen our relationship with existing businesses and to address immediate concerns where we can. So the BR&E program will focus on various sectors, including industrial, commercial, and agriculture. And this program is being overseen by a leadership team that has representative from each municipality. From BAM, we do have a CAO, your CAO on the leadership team and your mayor as well. So we're meeting periodically throughout the process to discuss trends as they emerge. And then at the end, the goal is to develop an action plan, how we can better support our businesses. And we'll be sharing more information about this initiative with you as well. And we hope that you can support this in your communities and encourage businesses to participate as well. Next slide, please. So we're also working on creating an investment attraction roadmap, and we are pursuing a FedDev grant to develop and implement an investment attraction strategy. So the goal is to position Elgin County for industrial growth and to attract new investment. So a part of this project includes clarifying goals with our local municipal partners, and we're starting that today. We're talking to you to better learn what your desired level of growth is and what your needs are and how we can support you in achieving those goals. We need to update our vacant land inventory. So what kind of vacant industrial, commercial, and residential lands are available across the county? And then one of the big pieces of this is completing a master servicing study. So this will assess the current infrastructure, including water and wastewater, to determine what its capacity is. How well can it serve the existing population? And then if we have growth that we anticipate, can it support that? And what work needs to happen so that it can support the growth that you would like? And this master servicing study would also provide options for building out that infrastructure that you need to support growth. And through this investment attraction roadmap, we hope to identify parcels that are ready for development, and then take a look at our incentives. Do we need to provide any more incentives to attract businesses here? Streamline our planning processes. We want to make sure that when we do get these investment inquiries, we have businesses that want to come to Elgin County. We want to make sure that our planning processes are efficient as we respond to those. And then we'll also be working on a workforce attraction and retention plan to support existing and new employers. We want to make sure that we have enough workers if we're having 30,000 new jobs in the area. And then we'll also be working on a lead generation strategy. So we're not just going to be waiting for the investors to come to us. When we have a good idea of what our available service land is, we're going to go out to investors that are interested in coming to Ontario, have those meetings with them, and present why Elgin County is a great place to do business. And so some next steps, you can consider some of these questions today, or you can take some more time with these and get back to us. But what are your goals for residential growth, commercial expansion, and industrial development? How do you want to engage with your community to assess its appetite for welcoming growth? So what is your plan to support infrastructure development, and how can we support you in having the conversations that you need to have around this area? How will you support the costs of new infrastructure, property taxes, grants, debentures, development charges, user fees, partnerships with neighboring municipalities, public-private partnerships? What would you like to explore in this area as well? How can we help you explore the different possibilities here? And how can you champion the BR&E program and provide support to existing businesses? And how would you like to work with us to develop and implement an investment strategy for the region? So you can discuss those now or get back to us. And then Don also has a presentation on planning and how we can work together on that as well.
All right, I'll leave this open right at the moment. Does anyone have any ideas? These are some pretty big questions, and I think they're going to require some pondering around council. I think you've kind of given an indication you do have an appetite for growth, and I think BAM would welcome some of that growth. And it's just to flesh this out a little more, we might need to put a little more thought to it. Thomas?
Just a quick point, Mr. Mayor, that with respect to question 6, the investment attraction strategy, another item on the agenda tonight is correspondence from the county regarding a letter of support for that grant application. So that will be coming up pretty well right after we finish with the presentation from the county.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions or any comments to offer at this point? I think you stumped them for right now, but we will get back to you on that. And that's the whole idea. I certainly appreciate the opportunity to have you here tonight, Carol. Don, your turn.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate the opportunity to come and talk to you tonight. Just before I get into the planning, I did want to just do one follow-up. When Councillor Emerson was talking about the funding component, maybe just give you a little bit of a more of a teaser on that. We are definitely looking at the senior levels of government. The province and the federal government, they've already invested about $16 billion in that PowerCo plant. It's a huge amount of money. It was very clear from listening to the provincial government that they can't afford to let that project fail. They have to be successful, and to be successful, they need a regional support. Not everybody is going to be living in St. Thomas, right? So some of the opportunities you talked about previously, we think there are going to be opportunities to seek some additional funding. But the other area that Carolyn talked about very briefly is the private sector funding. So we've met with two companies over the course of the last 2 weeks that provide private sector opportunities to either build, operate, or invest in, or a combination of those. Just to give you an example, I don't think I landed in Elgin County more than a week that your mayor and Thomas had me out in Bayham driving around the entire municipality. And one of the things they took great pains to point out is that water pipeline and some of the costs that being included in that. So just as an example, some of the companies we've talked to provide water and water sanitation services. And the way they run their models is you would take something like the pipeline. Sorry, Steve's left us for tonight, but just, you know, that's going to be a multi-million-dollar investment, right? And if you come back and you want to debt load that, that's a huge amount to take on as a community, especially when you're trying to pay off other debt. So the way they work the model is they would take the cost of that pipeline to install it and maintain it over its lifespan. And a pipeline typically will give you 50 to 60 years. So when you start amortizing the cost over 50 to 60 years, all of a sudden the water rates become a whole lot more manageable, as opposed to saying, oh my goodness, I've got to put up, you know, $10 million or $12 million just to put in the pipeline on the front end. So if you can spread that out like we do with our electrical utilities, that's more or less how the model works. So we are going to be coming back and asking them to present to not only county council, but give you an opportunity to learn more about that type of model as well, to see if it's right for you. It's not going to be for everybody, but it offered a very, for me, an attractive way that people could get in without having to have a whole lot of debt on the front end. So what I'd like to talk to you about this evening is a little bit about an initiative that was raised in 2021. There was a countywide initiative to do a service delivery review. At the time, there was a company called Strategy Corp. They came in, they made a number of recommendations. The county's been working with the local communities to implement a number of those. One that was raised at the time was the opportunity to explore a shared planning service. So fast forward, in the last 2 years, we've had a number of communities that have not been as fortunate as Bayham. They've had difficulties or no luck at all in finding and retaining good quality planners. They're extraordinarily valuable. I'm just looking to see if I'm getting a smile from the lady in the corner there, but seriously, planners are becoming increasingly demanding. So one of the objectives that was discussed in the service delivery review report was to explore shared planning services. I meet at least once a month with all of the CAOs, so Thomas is representing the community there. And I was encouraged by that group to explore more, or to speed up the exploration of shared planning services. And what that would look like, I'm going to ask you to go to there we go. Thank you. Slide's already up there ahead of me. So there were 3 local counties, Oxford, Middlesex, and Huron County, that all have a shared integrated planning service at the county level. And they all operate quite similarly. I also had the opportunity to speak with Paul Hicks. Paul is he's currently serving as our interim manager for planning services. He works for a private sector company. And he's made it very clear he will stay with the county and support it as long as we need him, but he's not interested in a full-time job. He's not interested in a perpetual contract. So he's doing this as, a committed professional. He has also recommended a similar model. Can I ask you to go to the next slide, please? Just a couple of different things that all of these three counties have in common. They have integrated all of the planning functions at the county level, and then the planners are then given local municipalities as clients. So if your planning here required you to have 2 full-time planners, then there's 2 full-time planners that are allotted, and they spend most of their time in this community with their offices, so they get to know your staff and the community. They also have the flexibility as if we only had half a planner required, you're not paying for a full-time planner. So there's flexibility that they can work across. You might see a world where you could have shared services with maybe Malahide. So your planner is doing both Malahide and Bayham as an example. It also gets back to something Councillor Emerson mentioned. You mentioned a few minutes ago, you were asking the question is, couldn't we get rid of some of the red tape and shorten the time frame for planning? So having a county planner, we have some of the designated planning functions of the provincial government. You could have that delegated planning function given to the same planner. They could approve both the local planning requirements, like severance applications and some of the things you typically do here, and also take that same file and do one-stop shopping and have it approved at the county level at the same time. So there is an opportunity to look at some increased efficiencies with how the whole system works. The other things that I think are critical there is that we have planning staff. When you're working in a local municipality, there's often our small communities can't afford to have more than one planner. So you have people having to work by themselves. You could have that person working on, in our communities, it's a lot of it's severances, where somebody wants to, sever a farm property and so on. That doesn't allow them to have the time or the luxury to work on some other things, like some of the growth strategies we've just talked about. That requires time and energy as well. So if you have more than one planner, especially if they can collaborate together, share ideas and so on, there might be opportunities to do some more of that type of work. So those are some of the additional functionalities you receive. Can I have the next slide, please? So the planners in the different communities, I've already touched on the part that they have their primary offices in the local municipalities. That also allows for, it allows for things like work from home and so on. It doesn't have to be really tied to a building per se. You can have a lot of different flexibility in that front. And all the three of those counties have found that works well. In all cases, the county levy is the thing that pays for the services. So there's a way to proportion that out and make it fair for people. Next slide, please. There are some slight nuances, and this is something I've shared with some of the other folks. In Middlesex, they tend to rotate their planners on a regular basis because they want them to see all different parts of the community. Huron and Oxford County have had it more, you get to know your community, you stick with that community, and you see where they have to go. I think it would have to be let's see what's going to work best for Elgin County. I'm not convinced that one model is going to work better than the other. I think for planners, it's also nice if they can actually get a variety of different work so that they can build their skill sets and get different experiences so that they can develop as planners. All three of those communities have also taken the approach where they will try and work very closely with the schools that are actually training planners. And then you'll have an experienced planner that would then mentor the younger students, and they'll try and get them to come work with the community, build their career, and over years have an opportunity to develop as planners by having a variety of different functions. And that's something that, again, if you're just doing the one thing, it's sometimes difficult to do that. So maintaining people, attracting and maintaining good people. Next slide, please. Those are some of the additional varieties of things that Oxford County's done, their rating and so on. It's worked well for them. One thing I do want to emphasize at the front end, we're not coming to any of the local municipalities and saying this is a must do. This is something that's got to make sense for all of the local municipalities. There's flexibility in terms of when people move on to this type of a model and whether they want to stay with their existing model. It's not one size has to fit all. If it works, if it makes sense for you as a community and that you're going to get the services you need at the same or cheaper cost, that's really what we're looking for. And it's our expectation that if there are existing planners that would like to continue to work with us, we'd love to have experienced people come and work for the system. This is not in any way, shape or form, moving people out. It's a matter of trying to bring as many people, keep them here and continue to work with the system. Next slide, please. Middlesex has got a few different elements what they're looking at. One of the things that Middlesex has done, they had a sale of land a few years ago, and I think they raised somewhere in the neighborhood of $8 million to $10 million. And one of the things that the county did with that land is they put it in a reserve. And then if your local communities, local municipalities had a growth project, like let's just, for example, say you had to do an investment to replace the pipeline. And it requires some, matching funding from the local community and some senior government funding. Well, you would then be able to borrow from this fund that they have and have an interest-free loan for 8 years. 8 years in interest-free loan, that's going to save you over 50% of the cost, like with our interest rates right now. So there's a huge advantage to having that. We're looking at, is there a possibility of us doing something like that at the county level to provide support to local municipalities? There's no free money that I can see, but there's maybe ways to make it a whole lot less painful if we're going to make the investments. The other thing that they have there is the local municipalities have to have at least 10% stake in the game. It's not free. Everybody has to show that there's some skin in the game. Next slide, please. Huron County is probably I think it's in my mind, almost the most mature of the models. They've also, in addition to some of the traditional planning functions, they've been able to get someone that's going to focus on climate change as an issue, and forestry. Economic development had a close relationship with planning services there. They've kept them apart, but again, some close relationships. So what I was trying to demonstrate there is that there's not one size that's going to fit for all. There's some things we can learn from each of them, but they've been able to develop some nuanced responses that are going to provide services that each community needs and to do it in a way that's going to be cost effective. Next slide, please. So got the feedback from Hicks Morley. There are a few other models in place right now. Central Elgin has a model where they are paired with St. Thomas. I think it's one time Southwold used to be in the same planning service. Southwold said they weren't getting a good deal. They backed out. They've got a different system now. But so Central Elgin still has to make some determinations as to what the relationship is going to be with St. Thomas. That's an example of something that might not happen next year. But some people, Dutton Dunwich as an example, if you don't already know, I'm an interim CAO. I was asked to come on board and help support the county in finding a permanent CAO. So I was getting a little bit nervous about a month ago, and I didn't think I'd have enough runway left to take this planning on. When I came to county council and sort of shared with where we are with the investigation, the mayor of Dunwich pulled me aside and said, "We need the planner right now, like keep pushing." And that's what he was pushing at the county council. His existing planner wants to retire. They've been looking, they can't find anybody else. We've got some, other people that have people that are contracted and so on. The reality is we need to have more planners to do the amount of work that's going to happen. And Carolyn's already talked about some of the growth, and you're saying you want more growth. We need the skills of experienced planners to guide that growth, or there's, we risk running into a whole lot of problems. So we want to get going. There's going to be some folks that are going to want to jump on side. So what we'll do for next year is we are doing a draft budget that will go to county council. We're still trying to collect information from each of the local communities to say, what would you like to do? Do you want to jump next year? Do you want to take some more time? We can be flexible with that. It's got to work for you, and we want to take the time that you're going to need to determine what's going to work best for you. But there will be some folks that'll move to this model as early as next year. Next slide, please. I think that's it. Next steps. That's where we're going. I think I've touched on most of those things. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about anything. If it helps, in addition to planning services, we're also looking at shared services for legal services, shared services for HR. If we can find a way to offer you the services that you need at a cheaper price, great. Legal services, as an example, we charge out at the same hourly rate that the person's salary would be at. That's probably half the price you pay if you went to St. Thomas or London to get a lawyer to look at some matters. You know, you got people that are experienced in municipal services. And when that happens, they report to you, this council, they don't report to me as a CAO. So that's an example of what we're trying to do to make it as cheap as possible. Is there any questions anybody has about anything we shared this evening? We're happy to,
Well, thank you very much, Don. Again, I've seen this before and, I'm very much in favor of taking a look at more details as it gets fleshed out a little further down the road. Does anyone have any questions? Any concerns? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. We've just undertaken quite a large, lengthy process of doing shared services with our neighbors here in Malahide. And I'm just curious as to, with this model, would it be a similar structure to, would agreements be in place with the county? And would we be billed for those services? I'm just trying to work my way around the procedure if we were to engage in a shared. And my next question would be, how would that impact our current relationship that we've just established?
so you can imagine it's not in our best interest to come in and throw a stink bomb in the middle of your relationship with Malahide. That doesn't work well for anybody. So what we want to do is just have you sit down at the same time with their county, their municipal council, and work out what's going to be best for you. In terms of the payment, each of the three counties that I showed you on the screen, all three of them use their levy system as the way to pay for the service. So then it was based on allocation of services, was based on the scope of how much planning you needed. So, I mean, you have a planner, you know how much, you know, how many hours, the scope of different types of planning, what's required. You know, we'd want to go to your professional planners as well and say, you know, what's the advice? What would make sense? You know, is it something that they want to participate in as well? But if we can get a clear understanding of the volume of work, the type of planning, then that's going to guide the type of people we have and how we'd allocate resources. I'm sorry, did I capture all of your
Yes,
questions?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thomas?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to reiterate, the arrangement with Malahide is building planning and bylaw, and just to remind council that council had directed me to issue a letter to Malahide to kind of put planning on the sideline for the time being because of our inability to hire a director of planning jointly between the two municipalities. So speaking from that perspective, we're also having the same issue from a professional perspective, retaining qualified registered professional planners over here. And we rely heavily on Arcadis, formerly IBI Group, to provide those services to us.
Okay.
Completely understandable. And that's something we hear right across the board. The three counties that have actually gone to the shared model, they've all been more successful in attracting recent graduates, having them mentored by experienced planners, and having those people want to stay because they have a chance to build their career. It's not a matter of they're coming in and the only thing they're doing is severances week after week after week. They have a chance to get involved in some of these other things that quite frankly help them grow as professional planners.
Any other questions?
We are not going to be too far away. The mayor said it well. I mean, there's some meaty stuff here that people need a chance maybe to consider. We will be happy to come back. We're happy to work with Thomas and do some things as sidebars. If there's anything we can do to help support any of the discussions or provide more information so you can make the decisions that are best for your community, we're happy to do that. Really appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Don and Carolyn both. Really appreciated it. And at this time, if there are no further questions, we have a motion that the presentation from Carolyn Cron, County of Elgin, Manager of Economic Development, Tourism, Strategic Initiatives, and Don Shropshire, County of Elgin, CAO Clerk, regarding planning for growth be received for information. Mover and seconder. Lakai. Councillor Chilcott will move, Deputy Mayor Weiser will second, all in favor, and that's carried. Great. Everyone in favor of taking a short break? Welcome back. We left off at section 13.1.2. Item A, the East Elgin Community Assistance Program request for funding. Who's going to speak to that?
I believe this will be Megan.
I can do that. Through your worship, we received correspondence from the East Elgin Community Assistance Program requesting funding from the municipality to cover basically their costs that they put towards our community. They are requesting help in the amount of $3,000. And then in the correspondence, it says $3,000, which represents approximately what we spend in 1 month for food, security, and transportation for Bayham residents. Attached to their correspondence, they did include some of their financial information and their contacts. And I will leave it with council to discuss.
All right, thank you for that. Comments? Yes, Deputy Mayor.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, just a quick question to staff is do we know if this is a one-time request or will this be an annual request?
Through your worship, this request itself is a one-time request. I did receive a phone call with them seeing if there was any grant type opportunities through us or the county or that sort of nature. So I did recommend that they submit a letter to request directly. In the draft minutes as well, if it is council's wish, we could refer further discussions to the operating budget to make decisions at that time. But council's decision, but.
Okay, thank you for that. That's the clarification I was looking for. Is this a request for 2023 or 2024?
Does not necessarily specify.
The treasurer is present. I'll ask him. Is there anything left in the general assistance envelope?
For your worship, there is some money left in the general assistance, about 1,600. However, I would remind council that the Q3 report, we're projecting a deficit. So staff recommendation would be to have this as a 2024 budget item to discuss. And if council so wishes to increase the general assistance line, this one-time donation, that would be the most applicable.
Deputy Mayor.
Yes, thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor, and with Lauren here, maybe he can clarify, but it says in the body of the letter that it's been 4 years since we applied for any municipal grants for assistance. Has that come back to Bayham? Have we ever contributed to this organization in the past?
For your worship, the deputy mayor. The best of my knowledge, I do not recall signing a check for general assistance for this group, nor do I recall an application before council in the early winter when we do the general assistance review of applications. I don't believe we've seen one for.
It's been a long, long time. This group is also the one that runs the corner cupboard, I believe. So it's been a long time since we had representatives from that group in front of council asking for assistance. Predates Lauren. Okay, so it has been quite a while. Is council interested then in perhaps even entertaining such a request through the budget process? Okay. Susan?
I think it's a great program. I'm just wondering, where the money will come from, but
Yep.
If we look at it for the 2024 budget, maybe we can find something. It's not saying that it'll be there, but at
Yep.
least we can look at it, try and do something to help out. I know we help with the pantry in Stratfordville, and there's a great need there.
Mhm.
So I'm sure that there's a lot more than what we can supply out there.
They're just, You think back over history, from the seventies onward, there have always been some initiatives, whether it was BAM initiatives, rounding up coats or Christmas gifts or something, for those in need in our own community, or whether it's the pantries both, in Port Burwell and in Stratfordville. There was a Coats for Kids program that was out a few years ago, and I know that there's still an initiative, I believe in Vienna, where I think, Tammy, is she collecting coats again?
I'm not sure if she is or not, but you can't believe how many people came in for boots and
Yeah.
coats and stuff like that.
So the need is out there and it's in our community, and it was identified years and years ago that of families that this particular organization was supporting within our community. So I get it. They need to have some funds as well. And it's a real tough struggle because you're trying to decide, is it within the purview of providing municipal services? Is this part of the social services bundle? Where does it fall? So I think it would be really tough for council to make a decision on that tonight. So I'm hoping that maybe through the budget process, gives you a little time to think about it and to make a determination.
Well, through you, Mr. Mayor, we can't talk about prosperity and not consider the people that can't participate in the so possible prosperity in the future.
Agreed. Okay. All right. What have you got for a motion here? Ah, wow, you read our minds. The motion reads that the correspondence from the East Elgin Community Assistance Program regarding a request for funding be received for information, and that further discussion on this item be referred to the 2024 operating budget. Do I have a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Chilcott and Councillor Emerson will second. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Item B. Carolyn Cron, Elgin County Manager of Economic Development, request for support. This was referenced by Thomas earlier. Get it pulled up here. There. Request for support for county's application to federal assistance. Essentially, looking to get the resources in order to do the research to help position us for the growth that's coming, to do the research from the ECDAB point of view. Thomas?
Yeah, just a quick point, Mr. Mayor. This is sort of the reciprocal relationship that we have with the county when it comes to these sort of grant applications where, if we're applying for a DMAF grant or something through like the ISIP Green Stream, then we seek the County of Elgin support in support of our infrastructure. This is our way of supporting the county and other lower tiers in Elgin and ourselves as well when it comes to looking at business and investment. So I think this is something that we should definitely support, and I'm available for any questions.
My understanding is that the application deadline is closely or quickly approaching. Do we have if council is supportive of this, do we have a letter ready to go?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So attached to the correspondence is not only the county council staff report, it's a copy of I believe the blank grant application, and there's a form letter that is also attached. So we can utilize the language in the form letter and put it on BAM letterhead and use that as a letter of support in this matter.
Okay. Council have enough? Okay, Deputy Mayor?
I'll move.
Well, then I'll read the motion. That the correspondence from Carolyn Cron, Elgin County Manager of Economic Development regarding requests for support be received for information, and that Council of the Corporation and Municipality of BAM supports Elgin County's grant application to the Federal Economic Development Agency for Southern Ontario. Moved by Deputy Mayor Rainey Weisler, seconded by Councillor Susan Chilcott. All in favor? That's carried. You stay behind, transfer that tonight? That's the next. Okay, 13.2, reports to council. We have report TR 1623 by Lauren James, Treasurer, regarding consideration of the establishment of the Lighthouse Reserve. Lauren?
I'm sorry, through your worship, sorry, Lauren, I know that you're tall and it's difficult. We just had someone message say that they couldn't hear you, so please just make sure to speak right into it.
Pick mine up.
I'll try to eat the microphone. Good evening, your worship, and member of council. Before you is the staff report for consideration of A, to establish a lighthouse reserve, and B, to establish a municipal process to handle lighthouse donation to be put into a rehabilitation and or maintenance account. There's a few options for council consideration as well as staff recommendation. We have received some donations to date. We have held them in trust until council has given us direction. Those donations have come out recently from the passing of the late Earl Shea.
All right, thank you for that. Any questions? Counselor Chilcott.
Thank you. We had a delegation earlier tonight.
Mhm.
They had requested that a reserve fund be put up for donations. Would this be the same fund, or would we need to do two different funds in order to do tax receipts?
This would be the same one. So we would need a reserve identified, whether it's option one for utilization of the facilities reserve, which we have done in the past for the lighthouse, whether it's the establishment of a standalone new reserve for the lighthouse, or whether we repurpose the dredging reserve, which has approximately $63,000. The recommendation before council would be to repurpose the dredging reserve. The other option that we may consider would be option two, which would be the new reserve. And the reason for that is it would be a dedicated use. It would be more easy for us to track donations and inflows and expenses out of that reserve for reporting purposes and transparency. So that is that's with you and council, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for that. Comments, questions?
For you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor
It
Emerson?
just seems clear the option two is the way to go, to just be able to be clear and where donations go and where the money is.
Okay, so to keep it clear from the, to make it
Public
as simple,
Simple.
to make it as simple as possible is to keep it outside of the facilities reserve. Yes.
And remove any doubt that money's not appropriated to the place above the guy. So, as if it would, but you know.
Yeah.
To squash comments before they happen, I guess.
All right. What's the difference between, well, whether you establish a separate one or you take an existing reserve and repurpose it? That's what the difference between 2 and 3 is.
That's correct. The main difference is that option three is repurposing the dredging reserve, which puts aside $63,600 approximately as seed money the municipality is establishing for the lighthouse rehabilitation and or ongoing maintenance.
Okay. Counselor Chilcott.
Yes, I had a question, based on the dredging reserve, $63,000 odd dollars. How far would that go to dredging the harbor? From what I understand, it would be like taking a sand pail to the beach.
That's a fair analogy.
Wow.
So I would think that that money would be better used to go to the lighthouse and try and fix it. And if at some time at a later date, we can figure out how to dredge the harbor, and it doesn't belong to us anyways, so we should put the money to the lighthouse.
Just a quick question to the treasurer. Do you know when the last time we used the dredging reserve was?
Through your worship, to council, 2009 and 2010. And I would also remind the council that that waterway is not our liability. And we do need seed money for the lighthouse. So are we going to have seed money for the lighthouse? Or we just have a reserve that cannot sufficiently dredge something that we do not own?
I think one other thing to point out, if And it's probably incidental more than anything, the cost of servicing to keep in a separate account.
30 seconds of bookkeeping.
Well, no. What I'm saying is if we ended up creating another reserve account, but we have a reserve that's sitting there not being used, does it make more sense to eliminate that one service fee?
To your worship, if we create another reserve account, it's a matter of that reserve account starts with 0 and we put donations in.
You're missing my point. Are you keeping a separate bank account for this particular reserve?
No, there's not a separate account.
Then how do you track it?
It's tracked in the reserve fund method and it's also tracked with investments that we hold on hand as well as general cash. And that's how the reserves are balanced against.
So you could do the same thing under the facilities reserve, just have a subset, call it Lighthouse.
How reserve fund works, it's the offsetting liability to assets on hand. It just defines where that cash is pledged, allocated, or restricted to. No different than the gas tax reserve, which has restrictions,
Yeah.
or the sewage wastewater reserve. Some of them have compounding interest, some do not have compounding interest. It's a consideration of, do you guys want to have a reserve for the lighthouse? Or do you want to repurpose this reserve to have seed money and then a dedication?
I think we're getting really off track here. Counselor Chilcott.
I understand what Lauren's trying to say, and like, I believe that we should go with option 3, repurpose the dredging reserve to a lighthouse fund. Have the seed money to start the lighthouse and get things going. We need to put some money into that as fast as we can. Otherwise, the lighthouse is going to be, it's just going to keep costing more and more, in my opinion.
I see it as
So I would agree
a,
with that.
I see it again as a public-private partnership.
Sorry, say that again.
Private, public partnership. Private donations, public support.
Right.
If we're going to carry on the same, Okay, Deputy Mayor.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Lauren, could you walk me through how it works when people make a donation? Are you the one responsible for issuing a tax receipt?
So when an individual, so we'll establish this first off. Individual, corporation, trust, or other makes a donation, we are legally obligated to give them a CRA eligible receipt. We can give it the day they provide it, or we can give it to them up until February 28th of the following next year, so that way they have it for the tax year.
Thank you for the detail. I think she was looking for a yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And just so council's aware, we do donations for our cemeteries, for museums. We do anywhere between 15 to 40 a year. This is the same methodology we use when the SHF did the donations and fundraising efforts for the hall here.
One final point. I understand that Councilor Emerson, you mentioned there was a GoFundMe page established.
Yeah.
That would not be eligible for CRA.
It would not be.
Because it's not flowing through this particular account.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. And just to clarify, there is no minimum donation required in order to get the tax receipt.
$10 is the minimum.
10. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. And Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Just a comment. I am in support of the proposal as it reads, and I do think, and I agree with Councillor Chilcott, I think we need to establish the fund and use whatever mechanisms, any funding that we have available to put towards that rehabilitation. So I would be in support of that as well.
Anything further? Shall I read the motion? Okay. All right then. The motion reads, the staff report TR 1623 regarding consideration of the establishment of a lighthouse reserve be received for information. And that the dredging reserve be repurposed as the Lighthouse Reserve, and that the Lighthouse Reserve be used for the rehabilitation and or future general maintenance requirements of the Port Burwell Lighthouse. Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Emerson will move, Counselor Chilcott will second. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Item B, report CL 1323. Thank you, Lauren. By Megan Elliott, clerk, tree canopy and program policy.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to council. If you might recall, in March of this year, staff were directed to bring back a tree program policy and also include language about procedures. Also include language about tree canopy and speaking to development. The attached policy speaks to these items. So it outlines development applications, that there's a requirement for trees removed under development planning process through which at least one new buildable lot is created will have to reasonably replace the trees, which shall include planting on each newly created lot. This is to the satisfaction of identified municipal staff and meant to encourage replenishment of the municipal tree canopy. The policy speaks to the Bayham tree program process, including direction from council regarding the size of stock. Types of stock are at staff's discretion and will depend on availability of stock outside of our control. And this may require differing vendors from year to year. And it speaks to that we coordinate a pickup at during the spring of each year. Carryover from the previous policy regarding the general benefit of trees and criteria under which staff may consider removal of same on municipal property and roadside brushing is also included. So again, the policy is attached here, and if you have any more questions, we can address them.
Okay, thank you for that. Does anyone have any questions, concerns? By reading the policy, essentially it'll be administered jointly between the clerk and the manager of public works. That's the identified staff.
Yes, pretty well. And I also should note that having a tree canopy policy is one of the policies mandated through the Municipal Act. So we do have to have something that speaks to tree canopy.
All right, thank you for that.
Just a question for you, Mr. Mayor. Who decides, Long Point decides what trees or what, it's not at our discretion, I can't remember.
The way that this policy reads was that it would be the manager of public works.
Oh.
So with working with Long Point in the past, based on availability, really.
Oh, okay. It would be nice if there was a preference to Carolinian species, actually. You know,
I assume they were, Thomas.
Mr. Mayor, my comment wasn't specifically to Carolinian species. It was, if you've got development and it's in a Long Point regulated area, Long Point has to provide comment on the development in general. And that Elgin County does appoint a tree commissioner, and that depending on the scope of tree removal, they may be required to provide input and issue a permit for tree removal. So there may be external parties that are involved in tree removal processes under this policy.
We are in the Carolinian zone.
oh, I
Yeah,
know, but it would
just
be
assumed.
so awesome if we were planting black gums or something, you know, or something that, you know, is not, I don't know, tulip trees or cucumber trees or something that are kind of rare. We encourage that if we're gonna, but if it can't, that's, you know, it's fine, but it would be nice if there was a preference to that type of tree.
Okay, thank you for that. Anything else? Okay. The motion reads that report CL 1323 regarding tree canopy and program policy be received for information, and that the appropriate bylaw be brought forward to adopt the policy as presented. Mover and second. Councillor Emerson will move. Deputy Mayor Weiser will second. All in favor? That's carried. Section 14, the bylaws. So it would be bylaw number 2023-082, a bylaw to adopt a tree canopy and program policy. Any questions? We need a mover and seconder for the following, that bylaw number 2023-082 be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. Councillor Emerson will move, Councillor Chilcott will second. All in favor? That's carried. Unfinished business, I don't believe we have, and we're moving into 16, other business. Item A, draft waterfront advisory committee minutes held October 16th, 2023. And item B, the draft museum advisory committee minutes held October 18th, 2023. Does anyone have any comments and or questions regarding the minutes? Okay. Then the motion would read that the draft minutes of the Waterfront Advisory Committee meeting held October the 16th, 2023, and the draft minutes of the Museum Advisory Committee meeting held October the 18th, 2023 be received for information. Mover and seconder. Deputy Mayor Weisler and Councillor Chilcott will second. All in favor? That's carried. Brings us to 16.1, in camera. Need a mover and seconder for the following. The council do now rise to enter into an in-camera session at 9:04 PM to discuss item A, a confidential report regarding sale or disposition of land, a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board. And item B, a confidential report regarding personal matters about an identifiable individual. Committee appointments. Mover and seconder. Deputy Mayor Weisler and Councillor Chilcott will second. All in favor? Carried.